been on a PlayStation 1 journey, and hot off the heels of Legend of Legaia, I wanted to see where one of the most prominent JRPG franchises started, Tales of Phantasia. Originally released in Japan in 1995 on the SNES, and was re-released on PlayStation in 1998, and was re-released again in 2000. It wouldn't be until March 6, 2006 that it would finally make its way on Western shores on the Game Boy Advance. But I heard that version sucked, and I was advised to play the PlayStation 1 version via the Forbidden Arts. And what a journey it was. But before I tell you all about it, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you love JRPGs like I do. It begins with an iconic opening. 4 people taking down an evil hunk of a man. The man flees but falls right into the pursuer's trap, sealed away as 2 pendants clattered to the ground. And one of those pendants found their way onto our hero's neck, unbeknownst to him, making him a target. He and his allies are pursued by dark forces that need the pendant to resurrect the Dark Lord, known as Daus. Unfortunately, things don't work out so well with our heroes, as they're forced into a time-hopping adventure to put an end to Daus. It's a classic collect elemental spirits, use them to finish Daus off for good. Honestly, it's very simple, straightforward, but man, does it beat you down in the beginning. Death just follows you everywhere. I did not expect such heavy-handed doom and gloom at the start. I was like, damn, they don't make RPGs like this anymore, because it really beats down your morale. Now, Tales of Symphonia fans may get a kick out of knowing Fantasia takes place in the same world, albeit 4,000 years later, but there are absolutely a few places and events that remain intact, like Heimdall or the Ymir Forest. The unicorn horn is still a thing. It's actually really fascinating. I haven't played Symphonia since it re-released on the PlayStation 3, so I forgot a lot about these aspects, but doing a little research, I was like, damn, the connections are really strong. But also, damn, I am due for a replay of Symphonia, although I remember being unimpressed by my first time playing. But now with Fantasia under my belt, maybe I could go back with a fresh set of eyes. Anywho, for a simple story, we need simple characters. Cress, our main protagonist, wants to get revenge against Daus, as does his best friend Chester, the hunter. Mint, a typical soft-spoken and sweet cleric. Klaus, he is my absolute favorite. While everyone else has the heart and soul of a hero, he has the soul of a grumpy old man. Cress and Mint are 17, 18 respectively, and Klaus is 29 and it shows. But he's been researching ways for humans to gain access to magic, as only elves and half-elves can. Archie is also pretty great, childish, goofy, definitely the life of the party, and believe it or not, the PlayStation version onward has a secret optional character. It's a very cute cast, nothing stands out, but they're still likable. I do adore Chester and Archie. I love that trope. Boy-girl argue, but the more they argue, the more they kinda care about each other. It's so cute, and as you uncover more skits, you'll really begin to warm up to the cast.
私なんかどう考えてもこの世界では墓石の下で眠っているよ。
ってことはゾンビ状態？
悪かったな。ほっといてくれ。
Since the beginning, Tales of has been an action RPG. And honestly, 2 things can be true at once here, because is it archaic? Yes. But for its time, was it impressive? Absolutely. Diving right into the combat, it uses the linear motion battle system. You and enemies are in the same linear space and have at them. You can use arts, which are strong attacks that consume tech points or TP. Just like modern Tales of games, arts are assigned to each directional button, allowing you to have multiples and rack up combos. And you'll want to use certain skills often because some of them can be mastered. Mastered skills can be used in arcane arts, which combine 2 of the regular arts and then some, dishing heavy damage. Mages use spells that also consume TP, and there are even shortcuts. Rather than manually telling a party member to do something, you can map it to one of the trigger buttons. Also, some TP is regained at the end of every battle. Again, pretty straightforward. The most amount of depth we got is taking height into consideration. Also, trying to get behind some enemies could be a bit of a chore. AoE spells also freeze the gameplay to go off, which definitely felt a little obnoxious considering you'll be using them often, as spellcasters deal damage, have elemental strengths, and are your crowd controllers. Not to mention, about 3/4 of the game you only have spellcaster party members. So a lot of the time you're watching these spells go off more than really playing. Now, here's where we get really archaic. Typically in Tales of games you could play as other characters, and that's true here too, but you can only switch throughout the menu outside of battle. Mentioned before, the flow of combat is interrupted by spells. If you wanted to play with friends, they had to have a channel ring equipped. Mind you, you only get 2 accessory slots. The technical ring allows for manual control over the equipped character, otherwise you're stuck in semi-auto, where your character runs up to their target, hits them, then runs back. Super annoying, couldn't do it, so best believe one of my slots was instantly taken. And to the surprise of no one, AI could use a little work too. I noticed playing Cress, essentially the only melee fighter for a majority of the game, Everyone else was magic users, which meant I was all up in enemies' faces, and for some reason, the rest of the crew thought they too had to get up in enemies' faces. They follow the character you control. I tested this by using Chester, the archer, and I noticed when I hung back, so did everybody else. With Cress, I ran in, attacked, and they also ran in. How I combated this was tying spells to shortcuts and essentially always making them cast, which would keep them far back and in place. You can also customize your teammates a little, selecting how the AI should play, and even toggle on and off arts you do or don't want them to use. Even exploration could be a bit obtuse. While skits are good at reminding the player where to go, sometimes you need to do something before you go to that location. For example, the Moria Mines. You need 3 elemental spirits to complete it, but you need to talk to specific NPCs to gain access to some of those places that the spirits are hiding. The skits don't say talk to XYZ people, just go to the Moria Mine. And it's because of moments like this, yeah, no shame in pulling up a guide once in a while. Plus, there are a ton of missable spells, dungeons, summons, titles, and mentioned before, character. In the third act of the game is when exploration just opens up and you can go crazy. There are skits galore, scoring you silly titles that don't actually do anything. Speaking of titles, one of the joys of playing Tales of Phantasia is seeing where Tales of started from. I've played every modern Tales of game. Think Symphonia and onward, except Tales of Legendia. That one sadly still eludes me, but I love seeing titles, finding chefs and cooking, familiar spells and art names, enemies. Honestly, it was really cool. Despite its rough gameplay, there are still a lot of things that, for its time, are amazing, and frankly, even better than its original SNES release. Just to name a few, the secret party member was just an NPC in the SNES version. Chester the archer originally had no arts, but his normal attack did stupid damage. Added visual effects such as the heat wave in Olive Town. PS1 also boasts a solid translation, skits, and reduced random encounters, but they're still pretty high. An added boss fight sequence. However, the PS1 version is harder. You cannot let these bosses breathe. Daos especially, bro, give no quarter. One of the few games where I've landed quite a few game overs. Graphically, I gotta give it up to the PlayStation 1 version. SNES doesn't look bad. I think Daos has a less chibi look to him. Colors are a little washed, but the PlayStation, it's a bit crisper. Game Boy is fine, but I'm partial to the PlayStation 1. If anything, I'll say the iOS version looks nice, but that's because it's a cleaned up version of the PlayStation 1. Also, characters in the SNES version do not match the official art, and that kills me. But characters are expressive outside of battle and in it, especially in it. I love the casting animations. Cress fighting always looks great. Portrait art during skits is even more expressive than their sprites, and shout out to being one of the few games that show the change in equipment. Sometimes Cress has a sword, a spear, even an axe. His shield changes. I love the look of enemies as well, especially when they're in pain. The bears are my favorite. They look like they're choking on a tooth. Mentioned before, the visual added effects, the little changes that really go a long way. Backgrounds are beautiful, however the overworld is a bit barren. Standard for its time really, but overall, a beautiful PlayStation 1 game. And as for the music, did Motoi Sakuraba actually compose a good soundtrack? Granted, he worked with Shinji Tamura and Ryota Furuya, so I'm still hesitant to give him full credit to this soundtrack. Perhaps I'm assuming the worst and assuming his teammates kept him in line to make good music. For example, one of the most popular songs from Tales of Phantasia is Fighting of the Spirit, the battle theme where you fight the elemental spirits. It's hard to definitively say if it was Sakura and Tamura or just Tamura who wrote this. What is for certain is the arranged version of Fighting of the Spirit is credited to Sakuraba, which I can't play because of copyright issues. But what I do have to credit Sakuraba for is this banger of an overworld theme, Raising a Curtain. If this song doesn't scream adventure, epic journey, a long day's travel, I don't know what does. This theme says we're on a heroic mission and the winds are at our back, and we shall slay the evil lord. Check this out. This is the Sakuraba I want. Okay, last one and then we'll move on. But another Sakuraba hit is the sad song of Tales of Phantasia, which you hear a lot, called Be Absent-Minded. And it's honestly probably my favorite. It perfectly captures the awful things these characters go through, and it really elevates the scene. And what a great title. Be absent-minded. Don't think about it. Suppress what is happening. I just think it's amazing. Also, I do like the opening theme. It is one of the better ones. Now, while all of these sounded like bangers on PlayStation, the same can't be said for the Game Boy. It sounded like ass mainly because of the limitations. But the last thing I want to talk about is the voice acting, and not gonna lie, I think this is the first time in a long time I prefer sub over dub. I am a dub girl, but man, did they really botch it in the Game Boy release. This is the opening scene of the PlayStation version versus the absolute hilarious delivery we got on the Game Boy.
何それはこれで最後だインディグネーションそんなバカな
Thou art at the gate to the underworld. Come forth, thunder of the gods. What the heck is that? It ends here. Indignation! It can't be.
Even in battle, shouting out the name of the arts, way better in Japanese, but still impressive with how much voice acting they were able to fit. Tales of Phantasia is great for its time, and it will test your patience in 2025. But I am walking away from Fantasia with a more positive outlook. Again, I think my favorite part was just seeing where one of the most iconic JRPG franchises started. Cast was elementary, journey was simple but fun, and there's tons of things to discover should you take the time to do so. It also got me re-watching scenes from Tales of Symphonia, and while I'm not the biggest fan of Symphonia, I kind of want to replay it and see how it all comes together. Anyways, Tales of Phantasia lands in the middle of the road for me out of all the Tales of games I've played. It's not better than my favorites like Tales of Grace's F and Tales of Berseria, which I've reviewed on the channel and you should totally look at. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what I do here, be sure to like and subscribe and join the Patreon. Get early access to videos and join the Discord. Thank you so much for your support, love your faces, and I'll see you in the next video. Mwah!